on my YouTube channel. This is I would say it's an annual update, but it's actually a seasonal update because I try to play through these seasons about every few weeks or so. Just completed the 75 season, and as you can see here, the Los Angeles Rams beat the Oakland Raiders 13-10 at the Orange Bowl. A game that in real life probably would have been considered an upset. Raiders would have probably been favored given the fact that the AFC was the dominant conference in the 70s. Um, and that being said, in this simulation, the Raiders were 6-point favorites, so it was an upset all around. The Rams winning this game largely um, on the strength of their defense. Fred Dreyer leading the team in tackles. He had a sack. He was the MVP. I think realistically, the way they did it, MVP awards back in the 70s, I'm guessing that something like this would have probably resulted in the quarterback getting the MVP. In this case, James Harris, who had a productive day, 91.5 QB rating, didn't throw for a lot of yards, obviously, but was efficient, threw for a touchdown, 62% completion percentage, which is pretty good for 1975. And again, the Rams were impressive. It was their first Super Bowl win, second championship overall since I started this historic career. They were the champions back at the beginning in 1951, I think it was. Yes, they were the first champion, defeating the Cleveland Browns 35-14. What I love about this game is that you can go back. I've said this before. You can go back. You can look at the old highlights. If I go back to the 51 season, I can see exactly what happened. Here's a touchdown. See how different the teams look back then, back in the leather helmet
It's
era.
caught.
Touchdown!
So that's pretty cool. Something I really like to do, just to harken back to those old highlights. So that was the 75 season. So now we're going to be flipping over to the 76 season and replaying that. A few things about 76. That was when the league expanded from 26 to 28 teams, introducing the Seahawks and the Buccaneers in 76. So some changes there, probably some rule changes as well. Let's see. Well, anyway, we'll go through that. Let's go ahead and click on this button, which will take us into the off season. Oh, and by the way, before I do that, let me just real quick, just wanted to again mention, something that was really interesting about this season. It started out, I always like to simulate the first half of the season I simulate the whole thing, but I quick sim it, right? I go through each week and I just sort of simulate the games very quickly for the first half, just so I could get to the second half and start playing week by week. And it started out very unusual. There were some teams that really sort of surprised me in terms of how they were able to perform way above what the expectations were. The team that stood out the most probably in the NFC was the New York Giants. They almost made the playoffs. In fact, they led the division for much of the season. It looked like they were a shoo-in for the playoffs, but of course back then there was only one wild card team. You had to win the division, or else you had to be the best second place team. And towards the end there, I think Craig Morton got hurt, and they just started to lose games. So the Cardinals and the Cowboys caught up to them. Redskins were a surprise. They really underperformed. They were at least a contender in 75 in real life, but in this simulation, they really did poorly, finishing 3-11. In fact, I think they were the worst team in the NFC, just shocking. The other team was the Lions. They kept pace with the Vikings through much of the season, and things sort of turned around in the latter part of the season, and the Vikings took control and ended up winning that division. And then the team that finished, with the best record in the conference were the Los Angeles Rams. Again, not a big surprise. Rams were a great team in '75. One of many seasons that they were very good in back in the '70s. And in this simulation, they actually came through without losing to either the Vikings or the Cowboys in the playoffs. In the AFC, again, very similar to real life. Baltimore at the top of the AFC East. Um, Pittsburgh winning the Central. Oakland winning the West. Um, the only difference was I can't remember 75. I think it was either Buffalo or Cincinnati. I think it was Buffalo that made the playoffs in 75. But it was Miami who got in instead. The one interesting thing that I thought was kind of cool was in the conference NFC um, in the divisional playoff round. You had the exact same matchups as occurred in real life. The Cardinals at the Rams, Cowboys at the Vikings. And in fact, you can see there the Rams and the Cardinals game ended up with almost the exact score as in real life. It was 35-23, I believe, in real life, and they beat the Rams beat the Cardinals 35-24. So game played out very similarly to real life, and so did this one actually. Even though the Vikings won the game, um, and you know, it didn't end in the Hail Mary that happened in real life. Um, well, it actually was a Hail Mary attempt. It just failed. And obviously, instead of winning the game, the Cowboys would have just tied the game, assuming they made the extra point. But still, in the final, I'll do the full play-by-play. I just want to point this out. This was really interesting. If you go back to, scroll all the way down to the end here, go to the last drive. And there was one play, yeah, 4th and 19. Now, I don't remember exactly in the real life game. I believe there was a 4th and 19 or something similar to that. Maybe it was 4th and 17. I don't know what it was, but at one point in that final drive before the Hail Mary, Staubach threw a sideline pass to Pearson on 4th and very long. Let's just say that it was 4th and very long. And I think it was well over 15 yards, and they completed the pass for the first down. And 2 plays later, they converted the Hail Mary. Again, it's eerie how this game played out, almost exactly the same. Here was the 4th down play, 4th and 19. Again, I thought this was really cool.
It's caught.
There towards the
First
sidelines, not
down.
exactly the same play. Um, and then here was the final attempt, right? Again, you're just having flashbacks. Opposite end of the field, but still same basic play. In the shotgun, Staubach goes back to throws it to Pearson.
Incomplete.
This time it was incomplete.
Third down.
So Vikings fans probably feel justified there in that not working out for the Cowboys. And they went on to the NFC title game to play the Rams. And the Rams won that game 13-10, same score they won the Super Bowl by. Raiders beat the Colts, who surprisingly beat the Steelers. Steelers were the team that were upset in the playoffs, losing to Baltimore. So anyway, very interesting ending to the season. Very, very similar circumstances to what occurred in real life. So I thought that was kind of cool. So let's go ahead and let's go to the off season. Let's select our historic mod, which would be 1976. All right, we're going to go ahead and select our schedule. And we've got the playoffs already set up with the 70-77 model, which will mean you'll have 6 division winners, 2 wild cards between the 2 conferences. See, all the images are all aligned well. We're at the back of the end zone for the 3rd season in a row, or 2nd season in a row. 3rd season in a row. Short sleeves. Okay, good. All right, so I think we're all set. Let me check here. Yep, that looks good. All right. So first thing I'll do here is I'll just check the divisional lineups now that we have two new teams. NFC East is the same. Let's just do it this way. Let's look at the we haven't done this before. Let's look at the coaches. See if there's any new names that pop out. For 76, there probably are some new names in here. I just couldn't recall exactly who started in 76 as a head coach. Lou Holtz coaching the Jets. Yeah, nothing too major that's sticking out there. But let's look at the ratings just so you can get an idea as to who we think are going to be the contenders for each division. Dallas and Washington look like they're going to battle it out there with St. Louis as well, possibly contending, and maybe even the Giants. There in the East, and then the NFC Central looks like it's going to be Minnesota. They'll maybe get a little bit of a fight from Chicago and Detroit. In the West, the defending champion Rams should be the class of that division. Niners might be competitive there with a 65 overall rating. To the AFC, oh, by the way, there's Seattle. That's the new team. Baltimore will be the top-rated team in the East, along with New England. In the Central, it's really going to come down to Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, as it did in real life. Those are the two top-rated teams there. And then in the West, the Raiders are clearly the class of that division, and I think the highest-rated team in the league coming into 76. And as we all recall, they did win the Super Bowl that year, so we'll see how they do. Tampa Bay there in the West as the new team. And by the way, as everyone knows, Tampa Bay and Seattle in their first season, they were in opposite conferences. Starting in '77, they'll switch, and the Seahawks will remain in the AFC Central up until 2002, and the Bucks will go to the NFC Central until 2002, after which they'll switch to the South. But they'll remain in the NFC until now. So there you go. So next thing I like to look at, let me go ahead and let me do backup too, just so I'm kind of confirming that everything is saved there. Go to the transactions. First thing we'll do is we'll look at the teams, the different changes in the players from team to team. Starting with the Falcons, some movement there. They got Scott Hunter from Green Bay, John Gilliam, veteran wide receiver from the Vikings. I just look at the big names here. Bills get Sherman White from Cincinnati. The Bears get Terry Schmidt. They get Ronnie Shanklin. Roger Carter is a backup quarterback. Coy Bacon moves to the Bengals from San Diego. He was, for a guy who really was one of the greatest defensive linemen of all time when it comes to sacks. He really bounced around a lot in the 70s. Coy Bacon did. I think he ends up with the Redskins at some point, but he goes to Cincinnati at age 34 in 76. Paul Warfield goes back to Cleveland, the team he started with, from Miami, and starting in 76. Finishes up his career there. Let's see, Jim Kick comes over from Miami to Denver. This is after the World Football League folded, by the way. So him and Larry Zonka and a few other players, I think Warfield as well, were coming back into the NFL from that league. Lions get J.D. Hill from Buffalo. Lynn Dickey goes to Green Bay from Houston. And speaking of Houston, let's see, they had quite a few players come over to their team in 76. John Hadle, the veteran quarterback, comes over from Green Bay. Let's see, anything else standing out here? No real big names. There's one, Ahmad Rashad, coming over from Buffalo to Minnesota. That's a big one because obviously he had a major role in some of their successes once he became a Viking. Bob Grimm from the Bears, another wide receiver, signs with the Vikings. New England had a lot of movement. A lot of players coming from other teams to the Patriots in 76. No huge names, but certainly some players that did play a role in, or did start in 76 and played a role in that team's success. The Patriots did contend for the playoffs in 76, and I expect they will here as well. Let's see, nothing too major there with the Saints. Um, Jets get Ed Marinaro from Minnesota. The Giants get Joe Danello. There's Larry Zonka coming over from Miami to the Giants. Norm Snead at age 37 coming over from San Francisco, so he'll be on the Giants roster. Oakland, they get Errol Mann, their place kicker from Detroit. John Matuszak, they get from Kansas City. Carl Garrett from the Bears. Carl Garrett, very underrated running back and kick returner in the 70s. Played for the Patriots as well as the Bears. Let's see. The Eagles get Manny Sistrunk. Let's see. Clint Longley from Dallas. That was probably after he tried to, or he did punch Roger Staubach in the head in the locker room. That wasn't good. So they got rid of him, and he goes to San Diego. Charlie Joyner comes over from Cincinnati. Let's see. Tony Fritsch from the Cowboys, along with Mitch Hupps. Mercury Morris they get from Miami. So the Chargers get some big names there. Jim Plunkett moves to the 49ers from New England. Let's see what else. There's the new team, the Seahawks, getting a bunch of players. Not huge name. Norm Evans was a major player for the Dolphins on their offensive line. They get him. There's Lau Blackwood. And they get Mike Curtis from the Colts. All right, there's the Cardinals. Let's see who they got. Nothing really standing out there. And there's Tampa Bay. Steve Spurrier, looks like he'll probably be their quarterback, coming over from San Francisco. Essex Johnson from the Bengals. Wow, big list there. Pat Toomey. All right. Richard Wood. The Redskins coming off a disappointing 75 season, so they're going to bring in Calvin Hill from Dallas, John Riggins from the Jets, Gene Fugett from the Cowboys. These are all big names. Danny Buggs, Jake Scott from Miami, Joe Lavender from Philadelphia. So the Redskins definitely making some moves in the offseason there, hoping to improve upon, again, a very dismal performance in 75. Okay, moving on to the draft. Must be missing some players there because the first player is the 5th overall, which is Mike Haynes. Richard Todd by the Jets. Mike Pruitt, the Browns. Let's see, what are the big names do we have here? Archie Griffin, the Heisman Trophy winner. 2-time Heisman Trophy winner, by the way. Goes to Cincinnati, so he stays in the state of Ohio. Let's see what else. Randy Cross goes to the 49ers. Danny White goes to Dallas. He actually came from the World Football League. Dave Logan for the Browns. Gary Barbaro. Duriel Harris for Miami. Jackie Slater, drafted by the Rams. It's hard to believe he played all the way through. He stayed with the Rams all the way through the greatest show on turf era. You can believe that. St. Louis Rams. That's crazy. He was drafted in '76. Cowboys. Butch Johnson. Harry Carson by the Giants. Let's see. Oops. I mean to click on that. All right. Nothing really big standing out here. Pat Hayden is drafted by the Rams. Guess they're already starting to think about wanting to replace James Harris. Carl Hairston, drafted by the Eagles in the 7th round. He has a big impact. Let's see any too big of names here. Let's see. Gary Fensick to the Bears. Beasley Reese to the Cowboys. He ends up with the Giants. All right. Well, that's all the draft picks. So here's all the undrafted free agents. I assume these are all accurate and that these were players who were not drafted, but who knows? I tried to catch them all when I put these rosters together. Some names always pop out, it kind of surprises you a little bit, like, hey, that guy was a free agent. Mike Reinfeld, he was a decent player for the Oilers, so was Tony Galbraith for the Saints. Chuck Muncy. See, I thought those guys would have been drafted. I think they were. This is probably a mistake. Clark Gaines for the Jets. Gary Shirk. There's Mr. Invincible. Vince Papali. Steve Largent. He wasn't drafted? I think he was. I think Jim Zorn was too. So these are maybe some mistakes here. But nevertheless, they're still, at least they're showing up as rookies on the roster. So whether they were drafted or whether they were signed as free agents, doesn't really matter. Leroy Selman, yeah, it looks like Tampa Bay needed to be updated. So I'll make those corrections and upload a new version of this roster, like as I've had to do with the others. No big deal. All right, so those are all the transactions. I'm trying to think what else here we can do. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at week number 1. And we're going to simulate week 1. Let's look at the matchups first. See if anything stands out. The one game I remember, this is the one here, Pittsburgh and Oakland. I would love to just play that out. I thought about that. I thought about making an exception. But I'm going to go ahead, just to kind of keep things moving, I'm going to go ahead and simulate. And reveal. And there you go. Raiders get the opener. Let's take a look at all these. So the Rams, they open up with a win over Atlanta. Buffalo upsets Miami 21-9. The Bears win. The Bengals win. Cleveland, Dallas, San Francisco, Houston, San Diego. That's a big week 1 matchup too. Baltimore, New England. Colts winning 24-17. Vikings get a opening day win. Again, there's that Steeler win. Let's take a look at the highlights real quick here. This one. Steelers winning 17-13. Let's do highlights only. Let's see what stands out. Here's a touchdown pass from Bradshaw to Frank Lewis.
It's caught. Touchdown!
All right. A lot of turnovers in this game. And here's a touchdown from Stabler to Branch. That tied the game. Flea flicker.
It's caught.
Also a post pattern. And here's what looks like the game. Looks like the game-winning play or touchdown. Anyway.
It's caught.
Stabler out to Davis. Davis gets loose, takes the rest of the way. And the Raiders take a 17-13 lead, which is where it ends. So let's take a look at the next 2 plays. Both ending in, I believe, Terry Bradshaw fumbles. There's a fumble. All right. Seattle, the expansion Seahawks open with a 38-17 win over St. Louis. That is funny. Okay. Redskins get a win. Let's what did Tampa Bay do? I assume they lost. Yeah, they lost to Houston. Let's take a look at this real quick. Seattle wins their very first game. They were up 24-0. Wow. Gray had an 80-yard touchdown pass from Jim Hart. But let's take a look at this play here. There's the Seahawks at the Kingdome, the old Kingdome.
Touchdown!
So they get that win. Let's go to the next week. Let's simulate the games. All right, let's see what we got here. Colts go to 2-0. Oilers go to 2-0. Let's see. Lions beat the Falcons. Raiders win again. They're 2-0. Vikings are 2-0. Now this game in real life ended in a 10-10 tie. So I know that's very low scoring there, but not implausible given the real result there. Let's take a look here. Looks like Hayden is the rookie is starting for the Rams. And yeah, they won on a field goal. Okay, so the Rams are 1-1. The Vikings are 2-0. Miami's 0-2. Dallas gets by New Orleans barely, 16-13. Eagles beat the Giants. Look at this, 3-3 tie. Yuck. All these games are really low scoring. It's been a recurring issue with the 70s seasons. Okay. Washington's 2-0. They beat the Seahawks. Chargers go to 2-0. They beat the Bucks. Let's go to week number 3. We'll simulate these games. All right. Bears beat the Falcons. Cincinnati shuts out the Packers. So look at this game. Now this was a showdown in real life. A potential Super Bowl preview. And wow. I mean, it was a good game in real life. I remember watching that game. 41-35. Staubach with 3 touchdowns. He also had 3 picks. Take a look at this. They were up 21-0 at one point. The red, white, and blue stripes on the helmets.
It's caught. Touchdown!
Signifying 1976, the bicentennial year. Let's see. They went 28-7, and then the Colts get a kickoff return for a touchdown. Let's take a look at that real quick. By the way, 76 was the very first year I remember as a child. I was 9. That was the first season I watched all the way through.
Touchdown!
I remember watching Super Bowl 10. But this was the first season that I actually really started paying attention to the NFL. I watched pretty much every week. So I remember some of these games. I remember watching that Steelers Raiders game. I remember watching this game.
Touchdown!
Cowboys were on TV almost every week. They were truly America's team back then. Let's see. Vikings. Raiders again win. They beat the Oilers this time. 31-21. Rams win big over the Giants. Miami wins their first game. Pittsburgh beats New England. That's a big game. I think the Patriots won that game in real life. Niners beat the Seahawks. And look, Tampa Bay, who went winless in 76, actually gets their first win over the Bills. 25-21. Let's see how that happened. Wow, so they went up. Lewis Carter
Touchdown.
scoring that touchdown. All right, let's go to week number 4. And let's see where this one goes. Okay, the Falcons are 0-4. Not doing great. Colts rebound after their loss to Dallas. They're now 3-1, beating the Buccaneers. Buffalo wins. Bears are undefeated. They're 4-0. Wow, I didn't even notice that. Okay, so that's cool. See, the Chargers are 3-1. They beat the Broncos. The Lions keep Green Bay winless. There's another showdown game there. Rams beating the Dolphins 23-17. They're now 3-1. The Vikings are unbeaten. They defeat Pittsburgh. That was a Monday night game. I remember watching that one. 12-7. Now this game was not on TV, but I remember seeing the highlights of it. And it was considered a major upset at the time. And this is I think the score was like 48-17. It was the only game that the Raiders lost that season. And here you go, 41-24. Not too dissimilar. Let's take a look. Where some of those big plays. Andy Johnson was the MVP of this game. Here's a touchdown throw from Grogan, 24 yards. See that real quick here.
Caught.
Touchdown.
So the Patriots taking care of the Raiders there. Real quick, let me just see this game too. I assume there was maybe a safety in this game, or did they kick 4 field goals? Nope, safety. This was a Monday night game. And there's the sack. It looks like Carl Eller gets Bradshaw in the end zone. So the Vikings defeat Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is now 1-2-1, so struggling a bit. Let's see. Dallas, boy, they barely get by the Seahawks, 28-23. They're 4-0. Take a look at that one real quick. I remember watching that game too. Again, the Cowboys were always on TV back in the 70s. So I remember seeing a lot of their games on TV. So this was another one I remember watching. And if I recall, in that game, the Cowboys won pretty convincingly, as you figured they would. But I remember the Seahawks scored first. And everybody was freaking. I remember the announcers were like, oh my gosh, this is going to be an upset. Didn't turn out that way, but anyway, I just remember that was kind of weird. All right, let's go to week number 5. Let's simulate these games, and we're going to look at the standings. Okay, there's a big game. Baltimore defeating Miami. Miami's now 1-4. I do remember they did not play well in 76, so that's not implausible. Colts go to 4-1. Bengals are 3-2. Steelers defeat Cleveland. New England, after beating the Raiders, now come up short against Detroit. Go figure. They're now 2-3. Let's see what else is standing out here. Rams get by the 49ers in a big game. That was a first place showdown there between the Rams and the 49ers. Rams win in overtime. Let's take a look at that. Let's see what the touchdown got. Jim Bertelsen, veteran running back, gets the winning score. There you go.
Touchdown.
So the Rams win. Vikings get by the Bears. That's another showdown game, 15-13. So they're now 5-0. Bears lose their first. Chuck Foreman was the star of this game. Let's see, what was the last? So they went up 15-7. Looks like on a safety. Virgil Carter in for the Bears. I think Avellini was the starter that year, so he must be hurt. We haven't looked at the injuries yet, so we'll take a look at that. Let's see what else. Jets defeat Buffalo. Dallas shuts out the Giants. They're still unbeaten. Raiders win again, or I should say they get back in the winning column after losing to New England. They defeat the Chargers. St. Louis is rolling. They're 4-1. Redskins are 3-2. All right, let's go to the standings. We're going to play 2 more weeks. As expected, you've got unexpectedly, you've got the Eagles in that mix, but no surprise to see Dallas, St. Louis, and Washington there. Dallas at the top, Minnesota ahead of the Bears by 1 game. Lions at 3-2; they're not too far behind. Rams ahead of the 49ers in the West. Baltimore comfortably ahead in the East, in the AFC. New England struggling, 2-3, tied with Buffalo. Miami way back at 1-4, tied with the Jets for last place. And this is a surprise here. Pittsburgh 2-2-1. They're half a game behind Cincinnati and Houston. Houston tied for first. All right, and the Raiders at 4-1. They're a game ahead of San Diego. Let's take a look at the injuries real quick. Not a lot, but some major ones. Franco Harris, who was hurt in real life in '76. I must have his injury rating pretty low there. So he's out. Bob Avellini, I mentioned him before. He's out 2 weeks. Slidell Mitchell, that's a big loss for the Colts. One of the stars of that team in '76. And Doug Sutherland from Minnesota. So there's some big names there. Let's go to week 6. And take a look here. So we got Cleveland defeating Atlanta. Atlanta's 0-6. Buffalo upsets Baltimore 35-23. The Raiders defeat Denver. See, Green Bay wins big over Philadelphia. The Bears upset the Rams in Los Angeles on field goal in overtime. Let's take a look at this. So let's see. The Bears are actually ahead 17-10 in the final minute of the game, less than a minute, 34 seconds. The Rams tie it.
It's caught.
Touchdown!
To Bob Klein. That puts the game into overtime, and then the Bears in overtime win on the field goal by Bob Thomas.
It's good!
So an upset win for the Bears. I would say it's safe to say they're overperforming. Although they were rated pretty high, if I recall from looking at the ratings. So not a huge surprise that they're contending, but man, 5-1, and then beating the Rams on the road, that's a big win for them. Minnesota remains unbeaten, beating the Giants. Giants are winless. Patriots even their record of 3-3. Pittsburgh loses to Cincinnati. Showdown game in Pittsburgh. Losing 13-10. Let's take a look at this highlight. Looks like the Bengals get a kickoff return for a touchdown after Pittsburgh went ahead 10-6. It's Willie Shelby right up the middle. And the Bengals, and they were probably the best team that didn't make the playoffs.
Touchdown!
In '76, at least from the AFC side, I remember that. And it was actually the Steelers that knocked them out of the playoffs in '76. So not too big of a surprise, but the Steelers are struggling, 2-3-1. Niners continue to roll. They're 4-2. The Chargers are 4-2. Here's a showdown game: St. Louis and Dallas, 13-6. Let's see. Here's a kick. Now
It's blocked!
wow. And realistically, the Cardinals should be wearing white and the Cowboys should be wearing blue, but we didn't get a chance to make that change.
It's blocked! Touchdown!
Yeah, we know, Chris. It's blocked. Okay, that's funny. 13-6, so that's an upset. Cowboys and Cardinals are now tied for first. Here's the expansion bowl. Buccaneers get their second win, 10-7 win over Seattle. There's the winning touchdown here. Steve Spurrier. love these old uniforms. Frank,
Touchdown!
I actually don't know how you pronounce his last name. Is it Pagic? I don't know. And the Redskins win, so they're 4-2. So let's go to the week 7. This is the last week we're going to quick sim. And then from here on out, we'll do our weekly games. Okay. And let's see. So New England, 4-3, 30-20 over Buffalo. San Diego defeats Cleveland 34-14. And look at this. The Bears upset the Cowboys. The Bears have now beaten the Cowboys and the Rams on the road. They're going to be there at the end, at least as a wild card. If they can't overcome Minnesota, they're right there. 17-13 over Dallas. Let's take a look. What did they do? Here it is. They were up 10-6. And this was probably the play of the game.
Interception!
Staubach throws it to Virgil Livers, intercepted, turns it all the way for the score, putting them up 17-6.
Touchdown!
Cowboys would score. That was with 1:10 to go, right? Yeah, fourth quarter. So that was a clincher. On the final play, it looks like Dallas scores to make it 17-13. But man, Bears won that game convincingly. That might be the lowest scoring game of all time right there. 2-0. Cincinnati over Houston. I got to see this. Here it is, the one highlight for the entire game. There it is. That's the one score. Barn burner of a game. Kansas City wins. Rams win big over the Saints. Wow, 44-9. Colts defeat the Jets 13-6. Pittsburgh, so they're 3-3-1. They do defeat the Giants. Giants are winless. Raiders go to 6-1. Vikings are 7-0. They're unbeaten. Let's see. Niners win. Lions win. Whoa, Tampa Bay upsets Miami. They're now 3-4. That's crazy. Gotta see this. Gotta see this. So they're down 24. They were down 24-12 at one point. Yeah, 24-12. They score on a touchdown pass from Spurrier to Bob Moore. And then here's the winning touchdown. It's crazy.
Touchdown!
And then the clincher. Dolphins trying to drive down the field. Greasy throws it up. Intercepted. Cal Peterson. That's crazy. 26-24. The Buccaneers, the expansion Buccaneers, defeat the Miami Dolphins. All right, here's a showdown game. The Cardinals and the Redskins. Redskins win, so that knocks the Cardinals back down to 5-2. They're now tied with the Redskins. Let's take a look at the standings, see where we're at before we go into the second half of the season. So you got a three-way tie in the NFC East. Can't get better than that. So that's going to be exciting to watch down the stretch. I mentioned the Bears at 6-1. The Vikings are still undefeated, so they're still the team to beat in the NFC, 7-0. In the West, you've got the Rams and the 49ers tied at 5-2. The Rams did beat the 49ers earlier in the season. I think they play one more time, so that'll be a critical game. So we'll see how that goes. Baltimore leading the East, a game ahead of New England, so about what you would expect there. Looking pretty close to real life. I mean, this is all very plausible. Cincinnati, game and a half over Pittsburgh. I would expect the Steelers will make a run in the second half. We'll see how that goes. And then, you've got the, and by the way, it's interesting. The Steelers had one of the greatest defenses of all time in '76. But as of week 7, they've given up 78 points, which is good, but Look at the Bengals. They've given up only 57. So that's worth looking at. Yeah, Vikings 54 points. So, interesting. We'll look at the stats too. Raiders out ahead in the West. Only a game ahead of San Diego, though. The Chargers overperforming at 5-2. So, a bit of a surprise there. Tommy Prothro coaching the Chargers there to a 5-2 record. So looking pretty good there. Let's look at the injuries real quick. Anything that stands out? O.J. Simpson out 3 weeks. That's big. And I think he did get hurt that year too. So that's not unusual or not unrealistic. So let's look at the season leaders. Look at passing yards. Dan Fouts leads the league in passing yards. Followed by Staubach, Burt Jones, Mike Livingston. Wow. Rating. Jim Hart is the top-rated passer, followed by Tarkenton, Ken Stabler, and then Fouts. Rookie Pat Hayden in there. Let's look at rushing. I would expect, that's not surprising. Walter Payton at the top, followed by Delvin Williams. Dexter Bussey, Chuck Foreman. I think O.J. Simpson was the leading rusher that season, or it was Payton. I can't remember which one. Might have been Payton. Because I know Simpson did get hurt in '76. But he's there in 5th place. And so on. Receptions, Charlie Joyner leads the league in receptions, followed by Charlie Sanders, tight end for the Lions, and then Casper for the Raiders, tied with 39 receptions. Yardage, Joyner leads the league in yards. Total offense, Walter Payton, followed by Simpson, and then Chuck Foreman. It's a good defense. Bill Berge leads the league in tackles, followed by Jack Lambert. Sacks, Carl Eller with 15 sacks at the halfway point. Wow. It's a little bit high, but yeah, there you go. Followed by Coy Bacon. Interceptions, 4 players with 4 interceptions. Monty Jackson, John Outlaw, Ray Oldham, Tom Hayes. All right, let's quick look at kickers. Let's look at total points. Tony Linhart leads the league in points, 53, followed by Earl Mann. Field goal percentage, Roy Jarella. It's a little surprising, with 90%. So yeah, I don't usually look at the punters or the kick returners. Let's look at team stats. Look at total offense. Chargers at the top offense. A few years early there in terms of them being that good offensively. And it's passing. It's Dan Fouts. Well, the Lions lead the league in rushing. Points-wise, it's the 49ers, the Colts, the Rams, the Raiders. Let's look at defense. Total yards, the Vikings lead the league in defense. I get Pittsburgh. They're in the top 10, but wow, not what you would think. Passing, the Vikings are the number 1 team against the pass. Seahawks no, I got that wrong. 49ers are also number 1 against the rush. So the Niners have a tenacious defense in 76, it looks like. Points. Vikings lead the league with only 54 points given up, followed by the Bengals, and then the Steelers with 78, tied with the 49ers. Okay. So let's take a look at week 8. Let's see what are the big matchups here. What is the big matchup to look at here? It might be it right here. Minnesota at Chicago. Showdown for the NFC Central Division lead. That's a big one. That's the one we're probably going to do. So we're going to watch that one. Let's see what else we got here. New England at Miami. That's a big game for the Patriots. Dolphins are probably out of it. There's a big one. San Diego at Pittsburgh. That would be a possibility, as would 49ers at St. Louis. Oh, and Dallas at Washington. I remember watching that game in '76. Okay. All right. Well, those are some big games. But I think the game that we're going to be featuring in Week 8 is going to be Minnesota at Chicago. That'll be for the lead. Let's see. Bears lead the overall series 16-15. And if we analyze the game, the Vikings are favored by 4 as the visiting team, and the over/under is only 26. So it's going to be a low-scoring game. So that's what we can expect to see. Let's preview these other ones just for hits and giggles. Let's see. This one's going to be by 7, over under 27. That's also a low-scoring game. Let's look at this one. Analyze game. St. Louis by 4 with an over under 30. And then Dallas and Washington. And that one that one's even. With over under 37. That might be a more competitive game to actually watch. That actually makes me think. Maybe that's the game we'll feature. Because that's the game that probably would have been on TV. Depending on where, I grew up in the East Coast, so that's the game that I remember seeing. If I was in the Midwest, I'd probably get this game, which is where I live now. Well, I'll surprise you guys with which one I pick. We'll decide, but this one's a big one. Minnesota, Chicago, so can't go wrong with either one. So anyway, thanks for watching. This has been fun. Please subscribe, like and subscribe, leave comments, let me know what you think. And I appreciate all the feedback you guys give me. The few folks that have that have given feedback, I really appreciate it. And we'll continue to make these work better as we go along. I'm making tweaks as I go, so as we get into the next version of Carrie's game, which will be Pro Strategy Football 2027, all these seasons are going to be updated with little things that I catch along the way as part of this career simulation. So again, it's been fun, and appreciate you watching.